Isaac and Jacob, I am here. Reveal your purpose to me.
Exodus 3. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the backside of the desert, and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush, and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither, pull off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows, and I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land, and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppress them. Come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said unto God, Who am I that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he said, Certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be a token unto thee, that I have sent thee. When thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve God upon this mountain. And Moses said unto God, Behold, when I come unto the children of Israel, and shall say unto them, The God of your fathers has sent me unto you, and they shall say to me, What is his name? What shall I say unto them? And God said unto Moses, I am that I am. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. And God said moreover unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, hath sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say unto them, The Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, appeared unto me, saying, I have surely visited you, and seen that which is done to you in Egypt. And I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt, unto the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall hearken to thy voice, and thou shalt come, thou and the elders of Israel, unto the king of Egypt, and ye shall say unto him, The Lord God of the Hebrews hath met with us. And now let us go, we beseech thee, 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. And I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you land, and smite Egypt with all my wonders which I will do in the midst thereof. And after that, he will let you go.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessing and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Al Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. All right, another morning news and prophecy. All right, and just continuing on. All right, and the things just escalating. Dealing with war, dealing with the global economy, dealing with the devil. Attempting to establish a new world order. In the midst. All right, of this war. All right, and how the Lord is going to upset Esau, man. Esau is going to be disappointed in everything that he's trying to do. Okay, and as we're coming into a very spiritual time, all right, which tomorrow sundown, going into the Passover. Okay, and the Passover represented the Heavenly Father, all right, destroying the superpower of the earth at that time, which was ancient Egypt. Okay, and delivering his people, okay, from amongst, all right, the Egyptians, man. And we know the modern day Egyptians are, all right, the Edomites. Okay, America is a modern day Egypt. Okay, so what we're seeing now is that Egypt is getting ready to be plagued, okay, with poverty, famine, okay, civil unrest, and their last plague, which is going to be the nukes. Okay, so we're getting ready to see the Lord, do an Exodus 2.0, all right, in our lifetime, man. It's here. The Lord didn't allow these devils, He didn't push these devils to start this war for nothing. No, He pushed these devils, okay, to go into this war, man, so He can get ready to judge, all right, these Edomites, man, and these other nations, okay, and to completely destroy America and deliver His people, okay. So we're about to witness, great wrath and great mercy. Matter of fact, let's go into that. Let's start there real quick, okay. When you go into the book of Sirach, okay, Ecclesiasticus, all right, and the Apocrypha, you go to verse 16, okay, because this is what we're getting ready to see on a major scale, man. Is the wrath and the mercy of the Heavenly Father, okay. So let's go into Sirach 16:1. It said, "Desire not a multitude." No, Salaki, which that's on point too. Okay, this is Sirach 16:11. It says, "If there be one stiff neck among the people, okay, it is a marvel if he escape unpunished." Okay, so you look at Esau, and there's no one that has a more of a stiff neck than Esau. Okay, because this devil, he's set in his rebellion against the Most High. He has went this war is this devil going all in, to try to accomplish his new world order, which is complete rebellion against the Most High. Through his technology, man. Okay, and this man is hardening his heart to do it. That's why it don't matter how foolish, because he's really being foolish, man. I know, there's times when these devils do things and it seems foolish, but they have, this plan that they're working in the background, which that's at play as well. But also, this devil is making real foolish moves because he's stiff necked, man. The Lord has made this nigga stiff necked, man. Think about it. How wise would it been for Pharaoh to let Israel go, okay, after the first plague, instead of being hardened against the Most High and lost his whole empire? How wise would have been? Okay, but the Lord didn't want that. The Lord hardened this nigga, man. Okay, just like Esau, he's hardened. That's why some of the things that we're seeing him doing, this is actually foolish. No matter what type of plan he got working in the background, nigga, this is foolish to keep going against the Most High to try to establish this, man. Okay? So if there be one stiff neck among the people, it is a marvel if he escape unpunished, man. So Esau, if the Lord said, if there be one stiff neck, man, what about a whole nation? What about, these elites, all these different nations? elite families, man, okay, that are moving with a stiff neck in the earth to try to accomplish, okay, this wicked new world order. Okay, it says, for mercy and wrath are with him. He is mighty to forgive and to pour out this pleasure, man. And that forgiveness is for the elect of Israel. All right, which Yahweh Shah, which is our Passover lamb. Okay, because as we go through as we go through, the ceremony, okay, well, the ceremony is symbolic of Yahweh Shah. We eat the actual lamb, the bread, the wine. Well, it's an actual representation, okay, of Yahweh Shai, the lamb, or he's that Passover lamb, okay, that through his sacrifice, we're forgiven, and Lord we're passed over, okay, of this judgment, and we receive mercy, okay, because Yahweh Shai, he's the ultimate lamb of mercy, man. As you go into the Exodus story, and our people, if they put the blood on the doorpost of their lamb, okay, which was a foreshadow of the elect being covered by the blood of Yahweh that was passed over from the judgment that was coming in the land, you know, and may the blood of Yahweh cover, the elect in this time. May we be a part of that hopeful elect, and we're covered by their blood, man. Okay, which is a mercy. Okay, because in the same instant as he had mercy on Israel, okay, during the time of the Passover, well, he had wrath for the Egyptians, man. And we're seeing the same thing getting ready to happen now, as he's going to have mercy for the elect, okay, of Israel, because there's a remnant this time, not the whole nation, okay, it's going to be covered by the blood of Yahweh, okay, and we're finna see this wrath on everyone else, man. So he is mighty to forgive, all right, which is his people, beginning with the elect, and to pour out displeasure, man. Okay, so we're about to see the Lord pour out his displeasure for this current world. This is a judgment. Okay, and like I say, we know Esau got, his plan working in the back to do a global reset and try to establish his new world order. Okay, but we have to understand, no, bigger than what Esau got planned. The Lord got something that's going to triumph what this devil got up his sleeve. No, you wait till to see what the Most High got up his sleeve. Okay, because we know what Esau got up his sleeve, which is the MOTB, making it mandatory. Okay, locking people in to this digital public infrastructure. Okay, but the Lord is going to show that He's displeased. Okay, on everything that the devil has done, is doing, and is trying to do, man. Okay, which goes to here. Verse 12 says, "As His mercy is great, so is His correction." We're going to see great correction go forth in the earth, man. And this war is just the beginning. This is the beginning of the war that's going to lead to great correction, because this war is going to go into famine. It's going to go into pestilence, civil unrest. Okay, the Lord said eventually going to have what, teeth of wild beast. Okay, and ultimately is going to lead to nuclear destruction and return to Yahweh, man. So this war is the beginning of the Lord getting ready to bring out major correction in the earth and righteousness, man. Okay, and whatever this devil got planned, all right, is going to be triumph about, because of the by the will of the Lord through prophecy, man. Okay, so let's go from there. Let's get this here. All right, and the devil, he got a few things, going on. Okay, um, let's go here to Malachi. Like I read in Malachi 1:4, it says, "Esau's descendants in Edom may say, we have been shattered, but we will rebuild the ruins. But the Lord of heaven's armies replies, they may try to rebuild, but I will demolish them again. Their country will be known as the land of wickedness, and their people will be called the people of whom the Lord is angry forever," man. So the Esau's descendants, who are Esau's descendants? All right, so-called white woman, man, and child, white man, woman, and child. Okay, whom they call white. All right, there was their Edomites, man. Now you have Edomites. This devil has mingled his seed that look like other nations, and you got certain people that look like Edomites. That even Jake. Okay, but we know overall, all right, that these Edomites are what they call so-called the majority of Esau Edom are so-called white men, women, and children of the day, man. Okay, and at the head of Edom is who? Amalek. Okay, who's running the show? Who's at the forefront of this Edomite empire, man? Who's the financiers? Okay, the witches and warlocks. Okay, of this Edomite empire, man. All right, so this devil was shattered once before when Rome fell, because Rome represents the peak, okay, of Esau's power. Okay, Rome represents the peak of Esau's power, man. Okay, it's through Rome where this devil, had the most wealth, had the most influence, the strongest military, and this is why he's revived. All right, Rome and the earth again through NATO, America, and the EU. Okay, with which America being the centerpiece of this new Roman Empire, man. Okay, so he's rebuilt it. All right, but what does the Lord say? But the Lord of heaven armies replies, they may try to rebuild because this devil plans on what? Because they had this thing under Biden, what it was called, Build Back Better. Okay, which those three B's, going to 666. Okay, but they had this thing called Build Back Better, which is this New World Order. Okay, so these devils, if they're still trying to build and add on to their kingdom and extend their kingdom, okay, what does the Most High say? They may try to rebuild, but I will demolish them again. Okay, so Esau thinks he's doing a controlled demolition, okay, but the Most High is in control. And the demolition is going to continue way beyond what Esau intended. Okay, you see? He has his mind set on how he wants to, do this controlled demolition to build back, okay, for his NWO. But no, the Lord is going to keep, all right, the demolition all the way out, man, till this man is utterly destroyed. To America's a desert, okay? These governments of the earth are destroyed. These militaries of the earth are destroyed, okay? All these data centers and the AI, how Shai gonna come unplug AI, man? All right, that overhyped, overrated AI, man. How Shai gonna come unplug this shit with fire, man? Okay, said that country will be known as the land of wickedness, and the people will be called the people with whom the Lord is angry. All right, whom the Lord is forever angry, man. So the Lord has an anger towards this devil, man, and we're getting ready to see the Lord's anger towards Esau, man. Okay, the Lord has given this man, a space and time to prosper in his wickedness, to rule, to dominate. Now it's over, man. Now we're finna see the Lord's anger against this man. What we're seeing is the Lord's anger work against this devil, man. Okay, and all them dumbass plans that this nigga got. Okay, with this new world order, man, the Lord is gonna melt that shit literally, man. Okay, so let's go here. I want to get this video first because as this devil is going into his new world order, all right, which AI is a major part, okay, of this devil's new world order ambition. Now we went into this before, but what you call alpha schools, all right, which alpha goes into beginning, okay, and we know this devil, he wants to, do a new beginning, okay, where he blesses himself, okay, to where what he's getting ready to do is going to void out, all right, the blessing of Jacob, okay, and he's going to continue and establish his own blessing, man. Okay, and within that, AI plays a major part. He wants to govern the world with AI. All right, and just let's play this, and we'll go into it a little bit. Let's play this real quick.
Well, a new American school is revolutionizing education using AI. Alpha schools are at the forefront of a growing movement, providing students with a more personalized education experience using AI, this advanced technology. The school replaces a traditional classroom using AI tutors and adaptive learning platforms to identify students' strengths and where the gaps lie in the curriculum. So far, the results have been outstanding. Students scoring in the top 1% to 2% nationally in math, reading, science, and language. Joining me right now is the co-founder and the CEO of Alpha Schools, Mackenzie Price. Mackenzie, great to have you.
Maria, thanks for having me. There's nothing I like talking about more than education because it is the most important resource we have at our disposal to help young people be successful in this new world.
Absolutely. And I was talking to someone yesterday about the fact that it's been education and healthcare that have been impervious to any changes in technology for a long time. But suddenly AI is actually moving the needle. Tell us about Alpha Schools. What's most important for us to understand?
Well, our traditional education system was built out of the Industrial Revolution to create workers. And now in this new AI world, it is so important that we create individuals who are dynamic, adaptable, and most importantly, have the skill of learning how to learn. So at Alpha, we're using artificial intelligence to raise human intelligence. Our students are able to get the level and pace of academic knowledge that they need meets them exactly where they're at. As a result, we see student growth exponentially go up no matter where a student comes to us. And we're doing all of this in only 2 hours during the school day instead of a traditional 6-hour academic school day. And then, of course, that begs the question, what do you do with the rest of the day? And our answer is that we teach life skills, leadership, entrepreneurship, financial literacy, public speaking, relationship building. Those are the skills that are going to help kids be successful. We also are teaching them how to use tools like AI that they're going to need to be rapidly successful at learning.
What I like about this is that when you see a certain proficiency that a student may have, you're doubling down on that and ensuring that they're getting lots of different angles in that one subject or two subjects, whatever it is, rather than force-feeding the child to learn about things that may not be useful at all.
Well, I actually think that it's really important to have academic knowledge within our brains just to make sure that we're drawing upon that knowledge for critical thinking skills. But we can take kids who are really proficient and advanced at a certain subject and show growth in the 80s and 90s. We can also take that same student who maybe struggles in a subject and we can help them be successful in that too. So I think what happens is this personalized mastery-based education system raises the floor for all students and blows the ceiling off what's possible.
This is so huge, Mackenzie. I got to tell you, I've been hearing so much about it. I've been talking to friends and they're sending their kids to these Alpha Schools. How many Alpha Schools are there in the country right now? I know there's one downtown by Wall Street.
We have about 50 locations.
The one downtown by Wall Street. Huh? All right. And all this is doing, all right, it just says, the school system now teaches you to be compliant, okay? Teaches you to, be compliant in this system, okay? Because what did this school system teach you? It teach you how to be a worker, okay? It gives you just enough skills to be able to go into the workforce for Esau, okay? It teaches you to be compliant with his history, okay? Compliant with his culture, okay? It puts him as the hero. You go to Esau's curriculum, he's the hero. You don't hear any bad things about these Edomites in his curriculum. Okay. You only hear, these heroic tales. When you go into history, we thought Christopher Columbus was a hero for a long time, man. And what did we learn there from this school system? Okay. So now as they're going over to AI, they're making it to where people are just going to be compliant with AI. You're going to be used to AI supervising you from your youth up. You're going to be just like now. They taught you to be submissive, okay, through this curriculum, to this system that they send you out into the world to. Now they, all right, are preparing these schools to get these children submissive to AI, to where all as a child is what being submissive to this AI. Putting AI in the position of authority. Because you put AI as a teacher, you're putting the AI in the position of authority, man. Okay, and this gives this devil, free range to modify the truth to what he wanted to be. Okay, science, trust of science, which is Satanism. So he can just do this on a whole nother level, man. So this is what this devil, is doing. All right, and he plans that he's going to have this as the new curriculum going forth in his new world order, man. These AI teachers, man. Okay, and they're just teaching compliance, okay, to the new world order, okay, which is gonna be ran by AI. The AI is gonna be a governor, man. All right, so let's play a little bit more of this.
That are opening up all over the country. And I think that's a sign that families realize that their kids need to be prepared. They need the life skills that are going to help them be successful. And the other thing we fundamentally believe is that school should be a place that kids love, because when kids love school and they love going, they are able to unlock really big opportunities. And
you see how they sell it, okay? And she looked like one of those Edomites from the movies, from those AI movies, okay? They give you this sell pitch, okay, like it's all about the children, and preparing the children for success and prosperity. No, man, it's just preparing you to be a digital slave. Okay, this school curriculum prepares you to be a debt slave. Now they got a school curriculum called Alpha, okay, which is just preparing you to be a digital slave, man. Okay, you think they care about? They show the video of the children, with power tools, man. Hell no, man, that ain't the play. Okay, this is just a Trojan horse, okay, to bring about AI teachers, man. Okay, which you're giving AI a position of authority. Okay, and they're saying that and it's putting in the children's mind that knowledge comes from AI, not from people. Knowledge comes from this AI. So these devils can impute whatever they want, okay, into the AI as truth and knowledge, man. Okay, and it has to be accepted. Okay.
Unlock their potential, really. And the secret to our success, it's not the artificial intelligence. It's the fact that we have transformed the role of the teacher in our classroom. Instead of having to spend their time creating lesson plans and delivering lectures and grading homework, all those types of things, our teachers, we call them guides, are focused completely on motivational and emotional support, helping to really get to know kids and unlock their why. And that's what's making this model so successful.
This is really important because I want to talk about some of the things that people would criticize when it comes to AI. Talk to us about using artificial intelligence in the classroom, and what you want to say about someone who says, look, I don't want my child in a screen all day.
Yeah.
I don't want them scrolling. I don't want AI to be the dominant force as opposed to talking with teachers.
There is so much fear around artificial intelligence, and there are a lot of good warranted concerns. So, for example, we don't use chatbots in our system. Chatbots in education are cheat bots. Our students instead are getting a precise lesson plan that's based off of the same curriculum that students in a normal school would be getting. So this isn't ChatGPT just making up questions for students. So that is something that we've been able to really secure and make sure it's right. Screen time is another one. I myself was a screen time free family, but there is a huge difference between doom scrolling TikTok all day or playing video games and getting a one-to-one personalized learning experience that meets kids exactly where they're at. So I believe this type of screen time is actually incredibly valuable. And at our schools, our kids are than the average student in a traditional school is nowadays. The difference is that this screen time is smart screen time.
I want to get your take on how the federal government has also supported Alpha Schools. I spoke with the Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, and asked her about Alpha Schools just last week. Watch this.
We know that AI is here. We need to embrace it. We need to be ahead of China and other schools that are using these applications. So let's embrace it. Let's put the proper guardrails in place. This is not intended to replace teachers, but to be an additional tool for teachers, in the classroom. At least that's how I see it. And I think that's how it's been explained to me. It's the best application of AI.
So, yeah, and, this is coming directly from the government. And we know the government is bought and paid for by, the elites, man. Okay, and this is what the elites want. All right, and you best believe, okay, these devils was to have it their way and to continue on and get this thing up and running, man. They will replace all teachers, man. Okay, with AI. All right, it will be strictly AI teachers, man. Okay, and these devils, they always start off, and dress these things up as something pleasant, something harmless, okay, and then it always evolve into straight wickedness, man. Okay, so you got these devils, they're on this, as things are constantly unfolding, the economy collapsing. So this devil, he's on the timer to where he has to try to throw this thing up, okay, before this war get out of hand. Okay, now let's go here. I think I had something else I wanted to go into real quick. Uh, oh yeah, so let's go here. All right. So now we know dealing with Iran, all right, that these devils, have had this in the making, for a long time. Trump, get a lot of slack, for uh him going into Iran. Well, this was a plan in the making way before Trump. He just happened to be the president that was in office, okay, when this was green lighted. Okay, this is above Trump. All right, he's just a scapegoat and the clown, okay, that's in office. All right, while it's happening, man. Okay, so real quick, I want to go here. I'm gonna read this precept too, because these are all the signs that we're at the end. The devil trying to do AI teaching, and you got the war going on. You got, this looming, global, all right, crisis. Energy crisis, which is ultimately a global reset. Okay, the economy. So you have all these things going on at the same time. Well, this is a sign of where we at. Okay, Matt. This is Luke 20, 21 and 28. This is Brother Warriors of Yahweh. And it says, and when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh, man. So as we see these things, begin to come to pass, all right, the things pertaining to prophecy. Okay, Esau, he's trying to fill his belly. Okay, he's trying to satisfy himself with this new world order. Okay, it said, what he shall be in straits, and the Lord will rain terror upon him, man. So as we see wars, this devil trying to fill his belly with this new world order. Okay, famines, talks of famines, and civil unrest. Well, these are the signs, all right, that we was told, to look for, man, before the return of Yahweh Shai. Then look up, because our salvation is going to come from above, man, and lift up your heads, for your redemption draw nigh, man. We're going to be redeemed, by Yahweh Shai and those chariots, man. Okay, salvation is going to come from above. All right, with great power, man. A great miracle. We're gonna be saved by a great miracle, man. Okay, through Yahweh Shai. Now, real quick, what I want to go to here, as we know, all right, U.S. military plans to take down 7 countries, all right, in the Middle East, which we know is actually West Asia, all right, what they call it, the Middle East, but that's actually the region of Western Asia. It says the claim regarding, all right, a U.S. military plan to take down 7 countries in the Middle East stems from a 2007 interview with retired U.S. Army General, all right, Wesley Clark. And you have a lot of these, ex-military, these men that were high up. I'm talking about Joint Chief of Staffs. Men that was right under Colin Powell. Men that was, high up in the military. They're coming out and they're exposing a lot on this devil, man. If a brother want to put that in Psalm 64, how his own tongue shall fall upon him. We can always get that we can also get that in Matthew 16, verses 1 through 3. Going to these signs. All right. And it says, the claim regarding the U.S. military plan to take down 7 countries in the Middle East stems from a 2007 interview with retired U.S. Army General Wesley Clark. In this account, Clark alleged that shortly after 9/11 attacks in 2001, a senior officer in the Pentagon showed him a classified memo outlining a 5-year plan to destabilize the governments of 7 countries. Okay? It said the alleged target list, according to the general, the memo stated that the United States intended to take out the following 7 countries within 5 years. Okay? Which was Iraq, all right, was as the first invasion. Okay, they went into Iraq, was they did Desert Storm, and then they came back in 2003. Okay, and what these doubles do, they want to make sure that this oil, all right, stays on the market in dollars. Okay, because these doubles, they don't, you know, win a lot of these battles militarily, but they win them economically. Okay, because as long as they have a leader in place, okay, that's going to continue to sell their oil in the dollar, which propped up the petrodollar, all right, then there was a win for them. Okay, goes into Syria, the same thing. All right, the whole thing in Syria, where Syria failed to the small hats in America uh last year, the year before, was it last year? I can't remember. But uh all they did was make sure, okay, that the Syrian oil, okay, was only being sold in the dollar. All right, because you had Russia and Iran in the mix, okay, at once with Syria, okay, and they was able to have military personnel. Russia and China was able to have military personnel in Syria, military hardware, with certain deals with the Syrian government, okay. But when Syria fell, all right, the Bashar government fell, then it became a, um, a puppet, okay, because they just have the ex-ISIS leader, which how crazy is that? The leader of ISIS, the ex-leader of ISIS is, all right, the puppet leader of Syria, and it's just so crazy how this man could, wage these wars and blame it on ISIS because he went into Syria based on ISIS, which he created ISIS. CIA and Mossad created ISIS, and he went into Syria, all right, based on this thing of fighting ISIS. That's why we got to be here because ISIS is so bad. Okay, but then when the legitimate Syrian government failed the Bashar regime, they put an ISIS leader as the as the president, man. Okay, just so they can keep their Syrian oil pegged to the petrodollar. Lebanon, the same thing. Okay, Libya, the same thing. Gaddafi, he was talking about going to the golden dinar. Selling Libya oil outside the petrodollar. Nah, man, they regime change took them out, put in a puppet that was friendly to the West and kept that oil pegged to the dollar. Somalia, Sudan, all the same thing. And guess what? What was last on the list? Iran. In the spirit, Iran is number 7, which is completion. Okay, and it's the completion of this devil, man. Okay, so this has been a long plan in the making, man. But see, things are not going exactly how they want to go. You know, because they wanted full control of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, with it being closed, the elites can capitalize off there for sure with a global reset. Okay, but ultimately, these devils wanted full control, all right, of the Strait of Hormuz, and they wanted regime change in Iran because that's all they were talking about. All right, and they thought that the way that they toppled these other governments, okay, and kept them in line, to this petrodollar order, that they was going to come and do the same thing with Iran. Okay, but as we see, it's not going exactly according to plan. Okay, and now these devils, the Lord is going to allow them to attempt the new world order out of this, man. Okay, but ultimately he's going to fail. All right, so let's play this here. All right, this is the this guy Michael Hudson. Okay, let's go here. So this guy here, Michael Hudson, he used to work, okay, dealing with these banks, and he understands, the ins and outs dealing with this oil. Okay, so let's go. Where we at? Here we go, right here. All right, let's get this real quick. This is the brother Isaiah, GMS Truth in the Lando, Psalm 64 and 8. So shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. Okay? So this devil, his own tongue is beginning to fall on himself, man. You're getting all these whistleblowers. All right, you're getting all these military officers, these high-ranking officers, man. Ex-CIA, intelligence and all these different things, and they're just doing tell-alls, okay, of Americans' wickedness, man. Okay, you see. So let's play this. It's all good, brother. Yep. So let's play this real quick, and he's gonna go into an interview. He's gonna go into a spiel how this has been a long plan in the making. This wasn't just a random. Trump didn't just decide to do this on a random Saturday, okay, on February 28th. All right, this was a long time in the making, and it was for an appointed time. Because we know these prophecies are for an appointed time. Okay, brother, want to get that? Habakkuk 2 and 3. Okay, so let's play this.
Real pleasure. Thanks for joining us today. Now, you've been talking about some of these issues that the world is now discussing due to the war in Iran, especially dollar dominance and the petrodollar system. You've been writing about this for decades, going back to the 1970s. And in fact, the US government has also been planning a potential war on Iran for decades. This is not something new. Now, Donald Trump is the first president who's actually crazy enough to try it. But I remember going back to the George W. Bush administration after the U.S. invaded Iraq, there was a lot of discussion of a potential invasion of Iran. So, Michael, explain to us how you see this war. What is the bigger picture here, and how will this impact the world?
Well, you mentioned that it's for the last few years or decades, it's actually gone back half a century. I said already in the mid-1970s, when I was working for the Hudson Institute on contracts with the Treasury and the White House and the Defense Department, I sat in on meetings, and they were discussing all along how ultimately the United States was going to have to take control of all of the Middle Eastern oil, and that entailed conquering Iran. And in the mid-1970s, at one military meeting, for instance, Herman Khan was explaining how probably Baluchistan was the main opportunity to begin carving up Iran into subject ethnic constituencies, and Baluchistan in between Pakistan.
Yeah, so Baluchistan was right here. I say between Pakistan, all right, and Iran. So their thing was to create, these a rebel group, okay, or you hear in Western media they'll call them freedom fighters. So America and the small hats, CIA and Mossad, what they'll do is they'll bring all this weaponry, okay, to a certain region. All right, pay these men, so they're pretty much just mercenaries for the West. All right, but then they'll push the propaganda of Iran having this tyrannical, unhinged leader, and there's been a freedom, okay, there's a freedom rebellion, okay, or freedom fighters that have, that are fighting for the freedoms and liberties of the Iranian people, but they're being suppressed by, and this is the narrative that they run with. So they've been plotting on this since the 70s, but this is what they was intending to try to do. That's why we seen in January those riots, okay, They wanted to topple the regime, okay, and set up a new regime that would be compliant to the West. You see, because Esau has control of all the oil, all right, all this oil infrastructure. Those Saudi states are nothing but just puppets. They're made up states. Okay, they're not even real. Okay, when you go into it. Okay, these are nothing but oil communities propped up by the West. Okay, for control of all the oil in this region on the west side of the Persian Gulf, but on the uh the east of the Persian Gulf, they want their Iranian oil. I think Iran is number 3, all right, or 4 in oil reserves. Okay, and this will give them the ability, which he's going to go into, to cut off China, all right, at will. Okay, and these other South Pacific Asian states at will. Okay, so this was going to give him another control valve. Okay, when it came to energy. Okay, so they really wanted Iran, and this was going. They wanted to demilitarize Iran. Okay, so those small hats can really have their way in their region. Okay, this was the plan, but things are not going according to plan. Okay, like the Lord still has it to where he's going to be able to pull off. This he's going to be able to attempt this new world order. You know, by causing a economic crisis. So the elites still are able to manufacture their economic crisis in the midst of this. Okay, but as far as militarily, it's not going like he wanted it to go. Okay, so let's play this some more.
And Iran was probably the best place to start a separatist movement. There were military plans. My field in the mid-1970s was oil and the balance of payments. I had that position at Chase Manhattan for many years, and I actually was the only. I was so low on the totem pole, being a technician in my mid-20s, that I was the only person who was allowed to see all of the operating details and statistics of the U.S. oil companies and the major companies, so that I could make a calculation as to the role that oil played in the balance of payments, supporting the dollar. And this was right after the United States was forced off gold in 1971 because of the Vietnam War. So the United States all along has realized that this what you're seeing today was going to be the end game of consolidating, they hoped, American control over the Middle Eastern oil. And they wanted that because the center point, the strongest lever that American foreign policy has had for the last century, is control of the world's oil trade. Because it's so immensely profitable for the American oil companies themselves. It's given the oil companies major control over U.S. policy, and also the U.S. economy, potential control over other countries, but by the ability to turn off the supply of oil to other countries, and thereby stopping their electricity production, stopping their chemical production, their fertilizer production with natural gas. The oil industry includes the gas industry because they're so closely interconnected. All of this has been thought out, and every year the military has been upgrading the long-term plans for, well, if we really have to use force to entail our control over over the Near East, Middle East, if for any reason the OPEC oil companies, countries want to become independent of the United States and begin investing their oil profits outside of the United States, instead of sending all of their oil earnings to the United States to invest in treasury bonds, corporate bonds, U.S. bank deposits, and stock holdings. Well, if any of them should want to exert their own sovereignty and go their own way, we're going to have to take over. And no matter what, we're going to have to take over Iran, because that is the most powerful, final locking point of U.S. control. And as we've discussed before, in 2003, General Wesley Clark came right out and said, well, we're going to conquer 7 countries in 5 years, culminating with Iran. So all of this has been completely open. This is not simply Donald Trump's war. It's a war which he decided at this time because America has steadily been losing its position of economic strength, military strength, by being and arms and supply of missiles and aircraft and bombs as a result of the war, first in Ukraine and then supplying Israel. So there will never be a less bad time to go to war than at the present. And of course, it is a bad.
The Lord forced these niggas, man. Okay, Esau was losing power. See, people think Esau just ran. This nigga was losing power, man. Okay, he had to do this, man, because he was getting weaker and weaker. He had to do this, man. Okay, this war in Ukraine, all right, the small has these ongoing wars that they have with everybody. Okay, it's been draining them, man. You know, so as they're getting weaker, they had to just go with their move. Okay, and this would have gave them, and see if they was able to change regime and rise, if they was able to do regime change in Iran, okay, and set up a puppet leader, a pro-Western leader, America would have had control over the whole board. They would have had China in their pocket. Okay, it would have crippled Russia. Okay, Russia shares a border with Iran. They would have gave them another front to confront Russia if need be. Okay, so this would have gave America crazy control over the board if they would have been able to do this regime change, man. This has been in the making for a long time. Okay, they will pretty much have monopolized the whole oil game, which is energy, which is food. Okay, so this would have postured America, okay, into a very powerful position, man, because they began to lose power. Okay, all these wars after wars, man. Nobody, they humans, man. No matter how much you can say, okay, this is the strongest military ever to be assembled, but they're humans. They can only do so much. They're limited. Okay, and this nigga just continually just been at war. So now the Lord forced these niggas to go with their move, man. Beginning with those small hats, the least of the flock, to draw them out, man. Okay. So this ain't, just no random idea about Trump. He just happened to be in office, man, when this war was green lighted. Okay, which it was green lighted above him.
Time, but it's not as bad as it's going to be. And the military and the neocons behind the military and behind the Central Intelligence Agency are not going to give up. They say, well, what do we have to lose? If we don't conquer the Middle Eastern oil now, then we're going to be losing our what has become the major lever of American foreign policy. And if we do conquer it, and Donald Trump believed that he could conquer Iran within 2 to 4 weeks, actually believed that, and his hope was by the time he went for his scheduled trip to China, he could confront China with saying, well, we've just caused a regime change in Iran. We're pointing out we've appointed an Iranian client oligarch, client dictator to take over and become sort of Iran's version of Boris Yeltsin, administering Iranian oil in the interests of the United States. So we now have the power to impose sanctions on you, China. We can cut off your oil, but we don't want to do that. If you begin to export the raw materials, the gallium, the tungsten, and all the other things that we need for our military that you've put a export control on.
Yeah, so China has cut them off from certain raw earth, materials. Okay, these rare earth materials. I mean, okay, that they need for weaponry. Okay, because they plotting against the whore, man. Okay, and then these nations, all these nations have new world order ambitions, man. Okay, but the Lord is in the mix of it. You see, this little plan that they got, the Lord is in the mix of that, man. All right, and He's tweaking it to where it fulfills prophecy, man. Okay, so these devils, all right, there's actually animosity between these nations just because they have these new world order agreements and deals. These niggas break agreements all the goddamn time. This is Esau. What does his agreement mean? Just because they got different agreements and pacts, and because you see NATO, you can ball NATO up, put them in the garbage. That Article 5 to where NATO's supposed to come and aid, because America is NATO. Okay, so the Article 5 and that says the EU don't fail back, man. Okay, EU done, these niggas is these niggas went under the bed, man. The EU nations, they under the bed, man, while the war going on, man. Okay, so all these agreements, the UN, the Article 5 and this and that, nigga, that's over with now. Now it's prophecy. Now it's Ezekiel 38. Now it's Jeremiah 50 and 9. Okay, now it's Isaiah 21 and 2. See, that's the agreements that's gonna stand. Proverbs 19 and 21 Bible shot. But I'm gonna put the rest of this video in here, and we're gonna segue. All right. Well, no, the only agreement that's gonna stand is the agreement. Okay, the counsel of the Lord. All these little counsels that these devils have, they're falling apart. And the Lord is showing that this devil is limited, man. He just a human. That's all he is. All right. The Lord let this nigga have some technology, some witchcraft. Okay. He let this nigga prosper in his wickedness, and now the Lord shutting this shit down, packing these Edomites up, man. Okay. This is brother GMS Tazadakia Yara. All right, 144K. Now the Egyptians are men and not the Most High. Okay, and the Egyptians are these is Americans, man. Okay, which they had this boast of just being this this untouchable military force. Who were there? Okay, and the Most High pulled their card. You see, and we see that is more bark than bite, man. Okay, it says in their horses flesh and not spirit. When the Lord Yahweh Shema Shah shall stretch out his hand, both he that helps shall fall, and he that is hoping shall fall, man. Okay, and the Lord got his hand stretched out, man. Okay, which is prophecy, man. Okay, prophecy is reaching out and touching this nigga, man. Okay, he was able to have his way in World War I, World War II, all those other nations on that list. He was able to have his way. Okay, but we get to number 7, Iran. All right, now things are going left for this nigga, man. Okay, this is the brother GMS Tazadak Yara, Proverbs 19 and 21. There are many devices in a man's heart. Nevertheless, the counsel of the Lord that shall stand. Because they've been plotting since the 70s to do this, man. They've been having counsels and trying to posture themselves and do this and do that. But guess what? The counsel of the Lord is standing, not their counsel, man. Okay, and the Lord gave them a window to try to achieve this new world order, so they got to come on with that. They got to tie their shoes up with that, man. Okay, Esau, you got to get on the good foot, man, with this whole new world order thing, man. You gotta really crash this thing, man. Okay, to get this civil unrest that you want, you gotta really crash this thing, man. Okay, so let's go from there. Now, 144K. Now the Lord is showing that this devil is limited, man. let's go here real quick to let's do an update on these small hats, man. All right, because the the belt to ass session is it's still in session, man. Okay, let's go here real quick and get an update on these niggas, man.
This is where a weapons manufacturer is also in this area, and this is where they build those items for the defense system in Israel. So Iran also struck that as well. Thoughts?
Yes, no question about it. I've watched that for the last 24 hours, and I also read in Haaretz, the only newspaper basically I read because Bibi doesn't own it like he does all the rest of them. 5,768 Israelis are admitted to hospitals. And then it went on to say that all have come home except 117. I wonder if they came home to be buried or to go back home. It's bad. It really is bad. Iran started out hitting military targets, which was their custom. That's what they did in the 12-day war back in June. Military targets only. Now, as Arachi so incredibly detailed, with all the targets that Israel and the United States have hit, largely from outside of Iran. Another lie is that we have air supremacy over Iran. We do not. We're launching most of these weapons from outside Iran. We're launching glide bombs, we're launching JDAMs, we're launching missiles and such. We aren't flying over Iran because we do not have air supremacy over Iran. So what they're doing now is matching Israel blow for blow. They're going after other things. They started with the oil facilities at Haifa and hit it with the Khorram Sham missile that almost destroyed the place. I think what we're looking at right now, if Iran continues this, we're looking at an existential situation for Israel. Israel is going to be aflame. It's going to be burning. All of its people are going to be underground in bomb shelters, unable to come out, unable to move. And that's a very dangerous situation, in my view. I think other people are coming around, in my view. It's a very dangerous situation because Bibi Netanyahu is going to feel like he has to use a nuclear weapon in order to get out of this. Iran, in short, is destroying the state of Israel right now. Methodically, blow by blow, missile by missile, Israel has run out of, or almost run out of, the key missiles to shoot back. They're trying to husband what they have because they don't know what's coming, and I can tell them what's coming. There are still probably 10,000 missiles yet to be fired, maybe more than that. So Israel is being methodically destroyed, and we're standing by and watching it, and so is Netanyahu. I don't think he's too happy about it, and one wonders what he does think about it, because it is becoming more and more apparent, even to his own people, the IDF chief, the mayors whose towns and villages are getting hit, the other people in the structure who understand what's happening to them, even if they only see this little segment of it, because Netanyahu closes down all communications and won't let people talk to each other, won't let newspaper people in there, TV people in there. You can't get into Israel to examine exactly what's happening, but it is so widespread now and so prolific that it's impossible to hide.
And the belt to ass session continues, man. Okay, and even though they have all this media, blockage and censorship, it's just getting so bad, nigga, that like it's just snippets of it just falling out, man. You got the IDF chief. Okay, this nigga like I said, basically, nigga, we done. All those tanks being destroyed by Hezbollah. So basically, like, nigga, we're done. Okay, and he's telling you, and everybody knows that knows, okay, that the small hats are getting their teeth kicked in over there, man. And this is just a continuation of the 12-day war. This is what the 12-day war was about to be. But they did the ceasefire. So now they push play on their 12-day war, okay? And now it's just it's getting to a slaughter. Now Tehran is taking, Iran is taking hits as well. Their infrastructure is being, destroyed. Okay, it's Tehran, but that's one city, and that's just one little small piece of Iran. The small hats can't take this back and forth, man. Okay, the small hats ain't able to absorb this, man. Iran can absorb way, way, way more in this back and forth than these small hats can. So day by day, all right, these small hats are being put in scrapes, man, and they're losing on all sides. It's not even close. Okay, let's go to another video real quick. You see? Yeah, Netanyahu, and you don't even hear from this guy like that. And it doesn't matter if he's dead or not. He's a non-factor. He's not no general. He don't lead no men into war. He's not no strategic. So he's non-factor anyway. You see? It doesn't matter if he might as well be, because he's a non-factor. Okay? Nigga, the war started now. See, all this talking and lying and, nigga, you a non-factor. Okay? You did what you needed to do. You hyped. Okay? You was a hype man for Trump. Okay? You see? You hyped up, the neocons in America as if y'all got these niggas fading and y'all don't. Okay? Now let's play this real quick, man. Okay? So this is 50 years of a plan in the making. Okay? Well, it's being overwhelmed by prophecy, man. Okay? So let's play this. All right, Hezbollah. Everybody thought Hezbollah was gone. Everybody thought the cell phones was the end, blowing up the pages. That was the end of Hezbollah. And then Hezbollah went silent for a while. But it's all, matter of fact, we're going to get this, man. Everything for an appointed time, They were thinking Hezbollah was silent, meaning that they were through. Nah, man, this is war, man. I tell you, this not a bar fight. It's a war. Okay? Just because you pause and get yourself together, they don't mean you defeated. Okay? And this is what these small hats find in a very hard way. All right, Habakkuk 2 and 3 said, for the vision, this is the brother warriors of Yahushua 144 says, Habakkuk 2 and 3, for the vision is yet for an appointed time. Everything is at an appointed time. One thing about strategy, the main thing about strategy is timing. And the Most High is very strategic, man. Okay, far more strategic than Esau. Okay, so we'll watch, because prophecy is the Lord's strategy of how he's going to end this thing, man. When you go into prophecy, it's basically the Lord's strategy to end this thing, man. Okay, and it's a masterpiece. That's why we're seeing the Lord put on a master class in judgment, man. And it's going to continue to escalate all the way up, man. Okay, well, he said Israel's on fire. Well, then the Lord say he was going to speak to them in the fire of his jealousy. My brother want to post that. And this the beginning, because ultimately that's the nukes. Okay, that's really when the Lord going to speak when it gets nuclear. But we're on the pathway to that. Okay, this is where this war is going to end. Okay, that's the top of the escalation ladder, the nukes. It can't go past it. Okay, so we'll await these other prophecies to be fulfilled. The civil unrest, Jacob trouble, the MOTB. This war is just going to continue to escalate until it goes nuclear, man. After the MOTB is made mandatory, it says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come to pass. It will not tarry, man. And the Lord is active in the earth, man. Our power is out here active in the earth, man. Okay, our power is active out here, man. Okay, everybody talking about we outside. Well, prophecy outside. Okay, prophecy outside too. Okay, so let's play this.
There are moments in the fog of war where the mask slips, where the carefully curated image of an invincible military machine, the so-called most advanced military in the Middle East, shatters against the rocks of a reality it tried so hard to bury. And right now, from the rough hills and olive groves of South Lebanon, we are witnessing one of those moments. Reports are flooding in, painting a picture of absolute chaos and humiliation for the Israeli Defense Forces.
Hezbollah is fighting back in multiple fronts. They're engaging in direct combat with advances by the Israeli military are coming under fire.
Hezbollah isn't just fighting Israel's army, it's bankrupting it.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Sunday he has ordered the military to expand operations in southern Lebanon. He cited ongoing rocket fire from militant group Hezbollah.
We're talking about the reported capture of a massive number, approximately 40 elite IDF Special Forces soldiers, during a failed landing and infiltration operation in the border town of Odaiseh. If you've been following this, you know that Odaiseh is not just another dot on the map. It's a graveyard for Israeli ambitions, a place where the resistance has historically turned the occupier's strength into a liability. The whispers coming out of Tel Aviv and the occupied territories are no longer whispers. They are screams of panic as families of the soldiers are being met with a wall of silence. And the military censor is working overtime to suppress what many inside Israel are already calling one of the worst military disasters since the humiliating defeat of 2006. To understand the magnitude of what's unfolding, we have to strip away the propaganda. According to detailed accounts emerging from Iranian news outlets like Press TV and corroborated by field reports, the Israeli military, buoyed by months of aerial bombardment and emboldened by the assassination of resistance leaders, believed it could simply march into southern Lebanon. They thought the Lebanese resistance was decimated. They thought wrong. In Odaiseh, they tried to beach the defenses, sending in what they thought were elite units to establish a foothold. But instead of finding a broken enemy, they walked straight into a meticulously prepared trap. The Lebanese resistance fighters, having studied the terrain for decades, watched the Israeli movements through the night. As the IDF soldiers pushed forward, likely disoriented by the dense foliage and the rugged jungle-like terrain that characterizes the border region, the resistance sprang the noose. Within minutes, a whooping number of soldiers, reports now solidifying around the figure of 40, found themselves cut off from their supply lines, surrounded not by a technologically superior force, but by men emerging from the earth, from the bushes, from the mangroves that the Israeli Air Force cannot see from 30,000 feet. They were captured alive, and according to our sources, quickly spirited deep into the jungles of South Lebanon, disappearing into a network of tunnels and hidden valleys where the Israeli military's much vaunted surveillance technology simply cannot reach. Before we dive deeper into the mechanics of this catastrophic ambush and the desperate criminal manhunt that the IDF has now unleashed on civilian populations, I need to ask you to do something. If you believe in the power of truth, the kind of truth the corporate media refuses to print, please hit that like button. Share this video. And for the sake of honest journalism, drop a comment. It doesn't matter if it's just a dot or a message of support for the people of Palestine and Lebanon. Every single interaction pushes back against the algorithm that is designed to silence voices like ours. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we don't take a dime from corporate sponsors or governments. We survive because of you. Now let's get back to the story that the occupation forces wish you never heard. What makes this defeat so devastating for the IDF isn't just the number of captured soldiers, though 40 Special Forces operatives is a staggering blow. It's the how. Let's paint the picture. Odaiseh is a frontline village, heavily fortified by the resistance after years of preparing for exactly this kind of invasion. When the Israeli command decided to push in, they were walking into a kill box. Resistance fighters allowed the initial advance to happen. They observed the Israeli movements, tracked them with patience, and waited for the perfect moment to strike. Elite Israeli soldiers, trained in urban warfare, suddenly finding themselves under fire from 3 directions simultaneously. Explosive devices, planted the night before, ripped through their formations. The fog, literal ground fog that rolls in from the Litani, clung to the earth, grounding the Israeli Air Force's drones and jets, neutralizing the one advantage the occupiers usually rely on. It was man-to-man fighting. It was point blank. And in that environment, the spirit and tactical genius of the Lebanese resistance fighters proved superior. As soon as the news of the Odaiseh ambush began to seep through the cracks, the IDF launched a ferocious manhunt. But here's the kicker. They aren't searching the forests or the valleys where the captured soldiers are actually being held. Instead, they are bombing the city centers, leveling entire blocks of apartments in Beirut, and terrorizing over 1 million indigenous Lebanese people who have been forcibly displaced from the south. Their homes have been collectively demolished, not as a military necessity, but as collective punishment. Amnesty International has documented this as a deliberate policy, bulldozing homes, cultural centers, even soccer fields. They are razing entire villages to the ground, ensuring that there is nothing for the people to return to. This isn't a war against the resistance anymore. This is a war against the Lebanese people. It is a desperate attempt to punish the populace for the resistance's success. And then there is the silencing of the truth. In their fury over this humiliating defeat, the Netanyahu regime has intensified its assault on journalism, treating reporters as legitimate targets. While the IDF lacks the courage to go face the resistance in the jungle, they have shown no shortage of courage in pulling the trigger on unarmed journalists. Take the case of the brutal assassination that took place just this week. In the Hasbaya region, where journalists from various outlets had set up a compound to cover the war, an Israeli airstrike deliberately targeted their living quarters in the middle of the night. These weren't combatants, they were sleeping. Let us name them, because they deserve to be remembered, not just as statistics, but as heroes who gave their lives to show the world the truth. Among the martyrs were Ghassan Najjar, a cameraman for Al Mayadeen, and Mohammed Reda, a broadcast engineer for the same network. Alongside them was Wissam Qasim, a camera operator for Al Manar TV. These men represented the front line of truth. Ghassan Najjar was not just a cameraman. His lens was a weapon against occupation.
So yeah, man. So what you have with these small hats, all right, is just so happened, they wasn't able to have their air support like they're used to, and they had to go into South Lebanon man to man with those special forces, all right, and 40 of them got kidnapped, okay, because Esau, like the IDF, I say they not built for that. They built for what they're doing, killing journalists, and because they can't deal with Hezbollah straight up, they just destroying civilian infrastructure. This is what they do. And their thing is, we're just gonna break the morale of the government. We're just gonna kill so many civilians and destroy so much infrastructure that the government just gonna give in. Okay, and that's their war strategy, America. That's their war strategy, man. But as these nations are not giving in and they're having the actual fight, man, it's going bad, man. Okay, you get 40 of your special forces, okay, kidnapped, man. Okay, because he had to go in there man to man. He didn't have the air support. Okay, just like with Iran, if American troops go in Iran, they're not going to have air support like that. Okay, it's going to be very limited, man. Okay, they're going to have to go mano a mano over there with them Persians, man. Okay, so let's get a couple more. Get a couple more precepts, man. So these devils, and the brother can get that as well. Job 5, 12 and 13, Bible Shah. Let's get a couple of these off the comment board. This is the brother GMS Taza Dagda Yara 144K. It said, therefore, thus saith the Lord, all right, power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen. And that's these Palestinians in their land too. Okay, because even the Lord using the IDF to bomb them, well, that's the Lord, because none of them should be there. Okay, but you small heads gonna get it the worst. Okay, well, the Lord just using, all right, these militaries for his purpose, man. Okay, and the climax of the fire of the Lord jealousy gonna be those nukes, man. And we're just in the beginning. All right, this is just the beginning of this, man. Okay, but the ultimate fire of the Lord jealousy is when this thing goes nuclear, man. Okay, and it's just gonna completely eradicate everyone that's in our land. Okay, and their land gonna be cleansed with fire. It says, I have spoken against the residue of the heathen and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land. Okay, going back to their Balfour Declaration, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of their heart with the spiteful mind to cast it out as a prey, man. Okay, so these devils spitefully have our land, claiming to be us, wilding in our land, Tel Aviv. It's all in spite, man. Okay, because these devils know what the Lord hates, man, and they magnify what the Lord hates, man. Over there with Tel Aviv, Pink City, in the Holy Land, man. And that's why it's no coincidence that Tel Aviv is getting pummeled, man. Tel Aviv is getting turned to a parking lot, man. Okay, that ain't no coincidence. You see, and it's just going to continue to get worse. All right, so this is the book of Job, chapter 5, verse 12. It says, he disappointed the devices of the crafty. Okay, because their agenda is not going to plan. Okay, it's certain things that's not going to plan. Like I said, they're still going to be able to manipulate this war and create a economic, all right, collapse. Okay, but militarily, man, just gonna keep getting worse and worse, man. That's why he has to hurry up, man. He know if he have but a short time. Okay, and so he disappointed the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness, man, because within this man's wicked agenda, now these things are backfiring and working against him. Okay, so within this devil's wicked agenda, things are starting to backfire and work against this devil, man. Okay, he's been taking his own craftiness, man. Everything that he's trying to conjure up before this new world order is going to start to work against this man. It says, and even when he made the MOTB mandatory, he just opened the door for the war to go nuclear, which is his complete end. So every move that he take to try to establish his new world order is going to be met with prophecy. Okay, he says he taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the fraud is carried headlong. Okay, so yeah, man, we at the end, okay, of this man's reign. All right, and right now this devil, he's fighting against prophecy and losing. Okay, and we're going to see these things get worse, man. All right, so Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters are edified. We're edified to the next time. Say shalom, Yashala, Abba, soon, shalom.